Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. Today, we have with us a special friend. Her name is Cara Lockwood. She is the best-selling author of more than 35 books, including the USA Today hit, The Takeover, and the book I Do, But I Don't, which became a Lifetime original movie. When she was diagnosed with stage 1 HER2 positive breast cancer, if I said that right, in 2023. After a double mastectomy, chemotherapy, and reconstruction, she went into remission in 2024. Her new book, There's No Good Book for This, but I Wrote One Anyway, The Irreverent Guide to Crushing Breast Cancer, is the candid, laugh out loud guide she wishes she'd had. Part memoir and part pep talk, it offers a raw, witty roadmap for patients, survivors, and loved ones. Half of all proceeds benefit the Susan G. Komen Foundation and a breast cancer research foundation. Oh my goodness, this is going to be so heartwarming to me. Hi, Cara. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you? It's such a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, yeah, and the name of the show is Adult Childhood Dysfunction. So people go, well, I don't know if that kind of fits in or what I'm talking about fits in. Any kind of adversity
Yeah.
and struggles and resilience and stories of hope and healing. I mean, that's what we're all about because I know sometimes you just things happen. And when things happen, sometimes we don't quite know how to navigate them. And it always helps to have someone or stories of people that have navigated. And I absolutely love that you make it a point to say that you do it through humor and
Yes.
not this toxic positivity,
I
smiling on the outside but bawling on the inside kind of humor
know.
that some of us are used to.
Exactly, exactly. Well, it's like I talk about in the book, which I think when people get a cancer diagnosis, there's a lot of reaction to that, but some of it is that you just have to be insanely positive the entire time, and I just don't think that's true. I think you can be incredibly salty and sarcastic and still get through with flying colors because I think it's all about what works for you and how you can find that humor in a ridiculous situation.
Right. And I mean, how do you find the humor in that? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the first step is just giving yourself permission to laugh because I think life goes on. Ridiculous things happen. I went in for a diagnostic MRI, and because you're sort of stressed out and overwhelmed, I had a hard time taking in information just at any given point. I was just very nervous and scared and stressed out. So, the nurse was like giving me all the instructions about what to do for the MRI, and I actually like just midway through just blanked, so that when it came down to like, am I supposed to take off all my clothes, some of my clothes? Like, how is this supposed to work? I only got it half right. When I went in there, I got some strange looks about it, but everything was okay. But after that, I just laughed at myself and I laughed at the situation because it's absurd. And then I told my husband about it and we laughed about it. I mean, I think it's okay, to be silly, to have silly things happen, to laugh, to be sarcastic, even because I think it's part of taking back your power when you're scared and overwhelmed and stressed out. Laughing helps settle you, helps take back your agency, takes away the bite of the fear because you can't really be afraid if you're laughing.
Well, yes, I was going to say you can't be stressed out and laughing at the same time. It's kind of like
Yes,
your brain is like, no. So,
right.
and also just the fact that, that positive energy is healing to your body. It's not just healing
Yes.
to your mind. It is so healing to your body. And they found that. I mean, there is laugh yoga and laugh therapy and
Hmm.
just because it raises the endorphins, it gets different parts of your brain moving, it's flowing, it's where you think about, you bring about. And so the more I feel like the more positivity and the more humor you can bring into it. But at the same time, talk to us about like w- obviously you were like, oh, you have cancer. Ha ha ha
Hmm.
ha,
Right.
I mean, I mean,
Right.
oh
It was
boy,
not
yeah.
funny when I heard it the first time.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. It was terrifying. Yeah, it was absolutely horrifying. I mean, I think the very first time the radiologist called and told me that, it was breast cancer. I, I went into a white room, just to sort of panic. Like, I was there, I was on the phone, I was listening, nothing was going in, I was just sort of overwhelmed. And then, hung up the phone, and my husband came in and was like, well, what is it? And I said, well, it's cancer. And he said, well, what stage? I'm like, I don't know. What do we do next? I'm like, I have no idea. And then we called back, and the radiologist is like, well, this happens a lot. Um, so people get overwhelmed. This is just what happens. So I think, like if there's fight or flight, I'm sort of freeze
Right,
sometimes.
right.
So
Which
I
is
think,
normal, which is
yeah,
so normal.
yeah. So that's how I felt, just completely overwhelmed. Like, how am I supposed to even start to fight this battle? I think for all of us, no one grows up in a perfect household. Like, no one has like all the answers. And then when life throws you a curveball, especially, you're like, what do I fall back on? Like, how do I even begin to navigate this? And so it was really this kind of the start of a long journey for me.
Right. So if you could give the listeners some advice, let's say you do get that diagnosis of whatever, and it could be really anything, because anything that you think is going to change the trajectory of your life one way
Mhm.
or the other is going to be a shock. And you're going to, you're going to go through the stages of being mad and being, like denial, being mad. You're going to go through all those stages. But what would be some advice you might give people like for that initial shock, like how to kind of navigate that?
Yeah, first of all, I was incredibly lucky because I had a counselor that I had talked to at various traumatic points in my life. I had a divorce and talked to her. I had a miscarriage, talked to her and talked through my feelings about that. Um, and so when this came up, I knew it was going to be traumatic already. I already felt traumatized.
Right.
I was glad I had that resource. And she, I'd known her for years. And so I reached out to her. And the first thing she said to me is that cancer doesn't get to decide. And it
Mhm.
was such a powerful sentiment because, when you're knocked for a loop with really bad news, it takes over your life. You feel like you're powerless for whatever it might be, whether that's cancer, some other health issue, a death in the family. Suddenly your life is in upheaval, and you feel like you just you have no control. So for her to tell me the cancer doesn't get to decide, meaning I get to decide my treatment. If I get treatment, I get to decide how I feel about it. I get to decide when I have that treatment, who gives it to me. There's a lot of choice and agency left to me. And that was so grounding, calming for me to realize that everything wasn't out of my control. There were still things I had control over. So, I mean, for listeners out there, even when you feel like such turmoil, such that your life is turned upside down, I would say look for the ways, that you still have agency. Look for the decisions you still get to make, and make them. I think that can help you kind of get your arms around a situation that feels out of your control.
Right. And I love that saying. Just that saying kind of gave me
Yeah,
goosebumps.
yeah, yeah.
Cancer doesn't get to decide.
It
And
doesn't get to decide. Yeah,
and wow, that's pretty profound advice,
it
actually.
is. It is.
So, um, so talk about the moment you said you talked about fight, flight, freeze, and you kind of
Mhm.
froze.
Yeah.
When was the moment, or was there a defining moment where you decided, oh, hell no, I'm gonna fight?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think it was. It took me over time. It's a process. You have a lot. There's a lot of medical appointments. There's a lot of advice friends and family give you. But I think it was after I told my closest friends and family. And at the time, I mean, we have a blended family of five children. At that time, three of them were in high school. My two biological children and my stepson, and it was just so powerful and frightening to me that, my doctor said, well, my youngest was a sophomore. And they were talking about, well, if you don't get treatment, there's a chance you're just not going to see her graduation. Like there's a very
Wow.
good chance with what you have. Yeah, that, that's it. And to me, it had never occurred to me to ever worry about that,
Right.
to ever worry about not seeing my youngest graduate high school. It had always and throughout my life been a given. Of course, I was going to see her graduate high school. Um, so I think when it became very real, I think just something clicked in me where I was like, cancer doesn't get to decide, and cancer doesn't get to take these things. Like
Right.
I want to be there. I will be there, and cancer is just not going to take this. So I think at that point, it just really became, me feeling like I was up for the fight. I wanted the fight. This was something that mattered a lot to me.
Right. Now, this is kind of off topic, but
Mhm.
just something I'm curious about. So there's a lot of people that are like, well, if I get cancer, I'm not going to do the chemo. I'm not doing radiation. I've seen people, whatever. What is your thoughts on, not on that, because I know that's total choice, 100% choice, but what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on maybe giving people some moral support as to just really validate what they believe in and what they decide regardless, because it's going to be a lot of pressure from from everybody.
Oh, sure. For me, I'm never going to second guess anyone's decision about how they get treatment or don't get
Abs-
treatment for cancer. It is such an incredibly personal decision. There's so much that goes into it. I mean, I myself had a double mastectomy and chemotherapy and immunotherapy, but at each one of those stages, each of those decisions was incredibly difficult. They come with loss and grief and physical difficulty. For me, I just personally felt like I wanted to throw everything at cancer because I was going to be at that graduation. I was not
Right.
going to miss it. But that was my choice. I know, I've read about others and have heard friends who opt for less traditional means. You know, I am not judging. I mean, it's an incredibly personal decision. In terms of how other people feel in supporting friends and family, it's difficult when you have a very strong view about whatever it might be, chemotherapy, surgery, any kind of intervention. We all have our opinions. We all have our strong beliefs about what's right. And when it comes to someone that we really, really care about, we want what's best for them. At the end of the day, they have to be the ones to make that decision. They have to be the ones to really believe in the treatment. They're the ones getting it. You know,
Right.
uh, if it lengthens their life, if it shortens their life, it's still their choice.
Hmm.
So I think it's very difficult not to offer advice for people, but also very important that you don't unless it's solicited. I think
Exactly.
I mean, everyone is unique. Everyone has different traumas and phobias and anxieties we're dealing with that we're working through. And someone on the sidelines with, you know, a pamphlet of information that they feel like is perfect for us, can maybe set us back,
Right.
emotionally. So I would say let people have their own independence. This is their life. You
Yeah.
love them, but they have to make this decision on their own.
I was going to say, and energetically, it does absolutely nothing for that person if you're
Yeah,
telling them they're wrong, because then they're second guessing themselves and then they're not in alignment with what they're believing anyway. Like if they have to go through another set of stress. So that's what I tell people is just be supportive either way. I mean,
yeah,
like you said, cancer has a life of its own, a mind of its own. It's like I've seen people that have gone through chemo and it didn't work. I've seen people,
yeah,
and I've seen people have gone through chemo and it did. Same
yeah.
way, same way I've seen people, of course, that went the natural pathway and they beat it. And then I've seen people that I said, I don't want the chemo and they didn't. So there's
Right.
no right or wrong. Absolutely. Just so for the listeners out there, if you have someone, I mean, that's my best advice, and maybe yours too, I'm sure, is just be supportive either way.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
them know, let them know you support and love them either way.
Exactly. Exactly. I would say just be a good listener. Help them talk through their fear. Like I think it's perfectly acceptable and wonderful if you're talking with someone who's like, I'm never doing chemo. And then you're like, well, let's dig into that. I don't even, what is it about chemo that's bad? Like what do you fear about it? Because sometimes just listening and walking through someone's, anxieties and fears can also help them get clearer on like why they don't want something or why they do want something, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be the one pushing an agenda because then you take responsibility for that, whether it works out or doesn't work out, like you're
Ex-
saying. And so much of that is not in our control whatsoever. So you don't really want to take on that responsibility, you
no,
know?
no, absolutely not. So, yeah, no, I was just curious on your take on that because it drives me crazy when I'm
Yes.
like, when somebody says I just got diagnosed with this and you hear people going, you have to do this. You don't have to do squat,
Right, right,
you
right,
know?
exactly. And I think the key is really to bring genuine curiosity to the situation, like rather than your opinion and your agenda about like you should do this because I heard it somewhere. I think it's much better to say, I'm curious about what are your doctors saying?
Right.
How do you feel about that? What scares you about it, or what reassures you about it? I mean, a genuine, like really trying to figure out where they are is much better than trying to push your own agenda when you don't even understand the facts. Like you're not
No,
in
you
their shoes. Yeah.
No, exactly. Um, yeah, no, I was just I know that was kind of off topic, but I really just wanted to kind of get your take on that because it's one of those things that just gets under my skin, and it's with everything, it's
Yeah,
with
of
all
course.
kinds of any healing from anything. It's people, it's not your business, like you said.
Right.
It's the person's choice. It's
Yeah.
so, um, I want you to share with us a couple. I know you said you used humor, and I mean, I am a
Mhm.
child
Yeah.
from a tumultuous background, and humor was my thing. Like that was, I could laugh at some of the things that people are like, "Are you kidding me? That's not
Yeah.
funny." But give me some laugh out loud moments. I'm sure you had them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, one of the hardest moments was when I had to tell my youngest that I had breast cancer, and it was absolutely just as 15-year-old in tears. None of it was fair. I was the mom and suddenly sick way earlier than I should have been. I was 50. It just horrible, absolutely horrible. But at the same time, she had been stressed out about college applications. She's very type A. She'd been thinking about college since she was 12. Like she was well ahead of the game, you know. But she had just been incredibly worried about this. And then, to break the tension and break just the sadness, I was like, well, I've just given you the best college app, subject I possibly could. You're welcome. You're welcome. And she laughed even through her tears because it is absurd and yet true. Like,
Right.
in the book I talk about playing the cancer card, and you 100% should. Like, that is the only good thing about cancer is you get to play the cancer card. And part of that is, writing an essay, or, deciding you don't want to go see your obnoxious neighbor's new kitchen.
Right.
There are many things about it. And there are also just absurd things that happen, like, my MRI. But there was also um, uh, funny things that on my first trip to chemotherapy, again, I thought it was a very somber moment. I was voluntarily poisoning myself, which is never on anyone's agenda. And my husband was driving me, and I said, well, I'm going to need a pep talk. I'm really going to need a pep talk. And he's like, okay, all right, but okay. And I'm like, are you okay? Are you ready to give me a pep talk? And he's like, yes. And then he just starts shouting at the top of his lungs like a little league coach. He's like, we're gonna go, yeah, we're gonna go do this, yeah, let's do it.
Oh,
And I was like, I just started laughing because I'm like, why are you so excited? And he's like, well, it's a pep talk. And he is a little league soccer coach. So of course that was his, he's like, this is it.
That's how
This
we
is the
do pep talks. We scream
yeah.
and we yell.
Yeah, we scream and we yell and we're really excited, and it was so silly. It was perfect because it just made me laugh. So there are plenty of things that have happened. I was getting a biopsy and they poked me a million times because they couldn't find it, and it was in my armpit, and I'm like, careful, I'm ticklish, and then they laughed.
Right.
you know, I mean, it's just things are absurd and absurd things happen even in times of seriousness,
Right.
and cracking that joke can just diffuse the tension.
Yeah. It
It's
just
not
breaks
all doom
it.
and gloom. Yeah.
Yeah. It just breaks the, it lightens up the moment in the moment.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Like yes.
I love
Exactly.
that. I can just think, like I said, I have a best friend that's going through it right now, and some of the things that I don't even remember exact situations, but I do like what some of the things we would laugh so hard, like in the hospital where she's getting her treatments and stuff, and
Yeah.
the things that you come up with, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
there's nothing. I can't even imagine anything more positive than to have somebody who's sitting in there getting their immunotherapy or whatever, and getting the giggles and not being able to stop. Like
Yes.
it's like a
Yes.
beautiful moment.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
But
It's like the best medicine in my view.
it it really is. It really is. So I have another question, and you use a term, screaming into the void. Is that what you
Yes.
said?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you talk about like your journey as being kind of like part pep talk, part what I don't remember what you said, honestly. I don't remember. But then screaming into the void. And you
Yes.
wrote
Screaming
like
into the void.
these
Yes.
different parts. Talk about the screaming into the void for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because there's so much frustration around cancer. Cancer doesn't get to decide, and yet there's a lot of hurry up and wait. There's a lot of waiting to find out what kind of cancer you have, how far it's progressed, what are the treatment options. And, at each, you want to know now. I did. I want to know now. I want to get it cut out now. And the doctors are like, we have to, measure 3 times, cut once. And I
Right.
was like, it feels like measure 500 times, but okay. You know, so I think there's just this innate frustration. There's a lot of feeling like, why me? Why, you know, what did I do wrong? And so there's that just leads into this feeling like I'm just screaming, and everyone else, by the way, is just living their normal lives. I felt like my life was turned upside down, and everyone else is just fine, which is what happens when you're going through something, traumatic and stressful, and you're dealing with whatever you're dealing with. And it's not fair because everyone has their stresses and everyone has
Right.
the face they put on, and you don't really know what's going on at home. It could be as stressful as cancer. There could be something even worse happening in their home. You don't know, but it feels like you're alone. It feels like you're frustrated and angry, and that's where the screaming into the void, like, what, just that frustration of, you know what's going on,
Right.
why me. And I feel like this book will help people feel seen in that you're not alone. There are a
Right.
lot of people screaming and there, and I think, just the first step is, for me at least, was moving from why me to why not me. I mean, cancer
Mm,
just strikes randomly anyone at any
yeah.
time. It wasn't anything I did. I didn't
Right.
ask for it. You know, I didn't have risky behavior that I knew of. It didn't in my family. There was nothing else I could have done to prevent it. It just happened. And so
Right.
then I had to, once I got there, then it was less screaming into the void and more, what can I do now? How can I
Right.
how can I
Just
start fighting this? Yeah,
instead of looking for these philosophical, unanswerable answers to
exactly.
questions, you just
Exactly.
accept, and that's a big state part of it. But yes, I mean that's another very profound statement that I've heard people say before is you stop looking at it at why me and just why
Yeah.
not me.
Why
It
not
just
me?
it's a thing. It just happens. So
Yeah.
it's here. It's got to be dealt with. So
Yeah.
Let's deal with it. Now, on your book, I'm excited to actually get your book. It's already out, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
It
it
is.
just came out this month.
Just came out in October. Yep.
Okay, so I'm excited to get it because you said it was kind of broken up into like pep talk,
Hmm.
your memoirs, and then the screaming into the void part. Which was the most fun or the most difficult part for you to write?
Yeah. They they all had interesting aspects. I really I journaled while I was going through cancer, so I had a lot of the memories fresh, in my journal to talk about the memoir part of like how it worked for me. And of course, everyone's journey is different, and everyone has a different, set of steps that they go through, and doctors visits and that sort of thing, and different kinds of cancer. But it was helpful to me to talk about my experience. It just was kind of grounding. The pep talks were, I really enjoy writing each chapter ends in a pep talk because I feel that we all need one, regard whether or not you're dealing with cancer, someone who is, or you're simply going through a difficult time. Like during the research for this book, I found out that Navy SEALs give themselves pep talks before missions. And it was so profound to me because I thought, why do they need a pep talk? They're so tough and like, like, and brave already. And then I was like, well, if they need a pep talk, then the rest of us do too. So, I thought writing the pep talks at the end of each chapter was just some tangible way that people could take away, a bit of encouragement, something to maybe get them through the next difficult doctor's appointment, or whatever was next on that road, because it's I think we all need a little encouragement, but it's
Oh
it's a
yeah.
difficult journey no matter what we're on. So we can all use a little more pep talks, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny, the Navy SEALs, like compare so many things to the Navy SEAls because, like you
Yeah,
said, it's true. We think they're these big, tough people. They don't need
yeah,
anything, but boy, they need pep talks. They need that visualization. They need that
yeah,
positive mindset work. They need it all because it's grueling what they do.
yeah.
And struggling with a disease is grueling. I mean, flat out, it's
Yes.
hard.
Yeah, and for me, I think a part of that journey was understanding. I just had a lot of negative self-talk that I had to unwind. For me to even believe the pep talk. You know,
Mhm.
there was a
Yeah,
lot of negativity just running like a playlist in my mind, set there from childhood.
yeah.
And I had to unwind that consciously in a way that I never had as an adult, in order to really find the strength, to believe that I could get through it, that the treatments would work.
That's true. And talk a little, can you go a little deeper into that with the negative self-talk? Because, like, when you're going through something like this, because we talk all the time on this podcast about the negative
Yeah,
self-talk and that,
yeah.
what are some examples of things that you would say to yourself? And then how would you kind of combat that or answer yourself back, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, yeah. So, I realized, I think I already knew, I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I mean, I've written more than 35 books, two of them on the USA Today bestseller list, two are movies, one's a Lifetime movie, one's a Hallmark movie. I just, but at each stage, there was always for me something that, I would tell myself, oh, well, congrats for being on the USA Today bestseller list. I mean, it's not the New York Times, but you got to start somewhere. There was always like this like passive aggressive negativity to everything, or like,
Hmm.
congrats on the new book deal, but it's only for two books. So what are you going to do after that? Or like, no one's going to want to read your next one. Everyone read this one, but no one's going to read the next one. Like there was this horrible meanness in this self-talk that was going on in my brain, and I think I didn't really understand how damaging it was until um, I was going to get my double mastectomy, and this was just terrifying to me because I just don't like the idea of being cut on and the idea of losing part of me. It was very complicated. I spent a lot of time, crying on my counselor's couch about it, before I made peace with it. And then, once I made peace with it, I was like, okay, I'm going to, exercise. I'm going to try to eat right. I'm going to, try to get in the best shape I can be mentally and physically for the surgery because I had about 6 weeks. So, I started, doing those things. And then after the surgery, things went well. Like I was irrationally worried about like running screaming from the hospital, booking a flight to Australia, just not showing up. I mean, there were plenty of like real anxieties about like, can I even go through with this? And then I did well, and I recovered well. And I told myself, like, I gave myself a genuine compliment, like, you put in a lot of hard work, and you mentally, you went to the counselor, you dealt with your fear. That was hard. Physically, you started eating better, you started exercising, these things helped you. You did what the doctors told you, you took it seriously, you did a good job. And that compliment didn't have a biting undercurrent of anything.
Mm.
It was just a genuine compliment. And I immediately just started crying, like, because I felt like that was the first time I'd ever given myself just a flat out genuine good job, without
Yeah.
that passive aggressive, oh, you're not really, that wasn't really good, because it was good. Like I did get through it.
Right.
So I think after that, I realized like, God, I've been so mean to myself for so
Hmm.
long for no good reason, you know. I'm gonna stop that. Like, I mean, obviously we can't stop it all and overnight, but now when I hear that negative playlist running, I challenge it. Now when it's like, oh, you've done well in this book, no one's going to read the next book, and I'll challenge it. I'll say, everyone's read all these other books. They're going to read the next book. If they like the last one, they'll read the next one. But it's really about not letting the loop run, like
Yeah.
without challenging. It's really about paying attention and then challenging it. And I think now I'm doing that more consciously than I ever have.
And it's a hard habit to get into because especially if you
Hmm.
come from, and a lot of the people on here listening have come from those tumultuous backgrounds where
Yeah.
you're wired to look for negativity.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
like you
It's
said, you've had
survival. Sure.
it's survival. And when your brain is wired for survival, that's
Hmm.
what you're trying to do is survive. You're not trying to thrive. And
Right.
so, and I always talk, it's like the stop and, like the stop, drop, and roll when you're on fire kind of thing. I say that with the negative self-talk. It's like nip it in the
Yeah.
bud. Like the minute that thought comes into your mind, question it, challenge it, make yourself show proof of that. And you can't do it because usually it's something that you're amazing at, like you.
Right. Right.
You wrote 34 books. Why would you write a 35th? Nobody's going to read it. And just be like, what are
That's
you
crazy.
nuts?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
like,
Exactly. And especially when you're going through a health issue, I had doctors tell me, my breast surgeon told me, well, if you think you're going to do well, you will do well. Like there's a lot of studies about that. Like if you think you're gonna do well, you will. So if you have this negative self-talk that's telling you the surgery is not going to work, the chemo's not going to work, nothing's going to work, it's hopeless. Uh, there's a chance that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is the last thing you want. You know, so negative self-talk isn't just like bad for self-esteem and your feelings. It can also be literally bad for your health. So I would
I
tell
was,
people, yeah,
mm, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, so because that negativity can literally harm you, might even kill you, I think it's all about, if that doesn't encourage you to like take another look at it and take it seriously, then you should. You
I
just
mean,
really should.
there's just so many studies. It's not, it used to be woo woo, all this stuff was
Right.
woo woo, but now there is so much science behind it. And it is
Yeah.
true. If you think negatively, that's what the universe is going to give you. If you
Right.
say it's not working, well, your wish is granted, my loyal friend. It's not working.
Right.
So here you go.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's
Exactly.
and it is hard to do, but fake it till you make it. Just
Yeah.
stop it and eat, and you eventually you will start to believe it because you're going to start to rewire those synapses and all those neurons that are firing in that negative way. You're going to start to rewire them to think, yes, it's working. But
Exactly.
you have to listen to your body and catch yourself. And do you have any tips for like I used to carry around a journal with me, and
Mm,
like a little book. And every time something popped in my head, like, oh, you're so dumb. Why would you do that? I would stop and I would write that down, or I would say it out loud. You're
yeah,
not dumb. You are
yeah,
amazingly smart. You have two
right.
master's degrees, and like, why would you say you're dumb? And question it and stop yourself. But do you have any other tips on how to do that for these people, these
Yeah,
19 people?
yeah, yeah. For me, when the first I would challenge. So the very first thing, like, if I had like, that chemotherapy won't work for me, I would challenge it. I would say, well, the doctors say it will, and all of this science says it will, so I think it will actually. That the negativity didn't have like actual research backing it. It was just fear and anxiety, and a lot of the time that fear would be, no one's going to love you because you're going to lose all your hair. I mean, if you really got down to it, it wasn't even about like the therapy not working. It's really about me being scared of being like rejected,
Right.
and then you would be like digging deep into that. So you can challenge it. You can get into a fight with yourself about it. Sometimes, I didn't really have a lot of, like time and energy for that. So I had a mantra, to sort of silence the negativity, which is, there's no way but through. So
Mm, love
because
it.
my negative voice kind of, would be like, you don't want to do this treatment. Why don't we just quit? Like maybe there's a lot of bargaining in with
Yeah.
the negativity, like, maybe we don't have to do it. Maybe we could go to Australia. Maybe we could find a herbal doctor. Like maybe we could do all these things and get out of this hard thing in front of us. And the more the bargaining happened, that's when I realized it was just fear and anxiety.
Hmm.
And then I just told myself, like, there's the fastest way is through. Like there's no bargaining, there's no shortcuts, there's no magic bullets. It's all going to be terrible, and we just have to get through. And we don't have to get through like a ballerina or a gazelle. We can get through ugly crying. We can get through like a bull in a china shop. We just got to get through.
You just got to get
So
through.
you just got
Amen.
to get through. Yeah. So sometimes it was just like there's no way but through. So that was those negative thoughts would come, and I was like, there's no way but through. So
Mm.
it would just sort of silence that. Like we just got to keep going. Like we just have to keep on the path.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Love all this information. And I think I can't wait to get your book. And this has been fun.
Good.
I,
Yes.
I do
Thank you so much.
I do appreciate you coming on, and I will have all of the show notes in the everything that you have, all your links. Do you take calls? I mean, what do you do? I know the books, your money goes to half of it to organizations and everything. Do you work with people? Are you just a support, or how does that look?
Yeah. So on my website, Cara the author, Cara with a C, CaraTheAuthor.com, people can reach out to me, email me. I'm happy to send, little pep talks, or, some people have asked for, book plates. Those are little, stickers that are like signed stickers that can go right in the book. So I'm happy to do that.
Hmm.
Um, I also, work with a nonprofit called twistedpink.org. So they send out care packages to people in treatment, and, I'm providing for every book purchased, a free one goes in, to the packages. So, I'm just trying to, let people know they're not alone. If anyone ever wants to connect on, social media, that's all on my website. I'm happy to offer encouragement, if I can, just to let people know they're not alone.
Perfect. I love that. And like I said, I'll put all those show notes in there. I'll put a link to your book and everything because I think the book I think, you don't want to read, I'll be honest, like if you're going through that, I've had people that are going through it and they're like, I don't want to read another story, another sad story and
Yeah.
blah, blah, because they're like, that's not helping me. But to be able to throw humor in there and to have the pep talks and to be able
Yeah.
to skip through the book and to navigate and to go back to a pep talk that you might need one day when something happens. I mean, I love the way you set that up. And I love, just the pep talks alone is
Yeah.
so encouraging and
Yeah.
that we need it and it means so much more coming from someone who's experienced it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is an audiobook version too. So if you have several hours at the infusion center and you just want a little bit of humor, a little bit of encouragement, in your ear, that's something available too. Because it's for me, I'm really hoping to show people not the here's exactly what happened to me and how horrible it was. It's really more how do you go from, being panicked in the white room to being a warrior. Like it's the transformation, and a lot of that's pep talk and dealing with the negativity and just emotionally, how do you handle it?
Right, right. Well, thank you so much for Kara for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you're not off the hook yet because I always ask the guests to give the listeners one last piece of advice or something tangible, or if you had to give your best pieces of wisdom for how to navigate from diagnosis to remission or whatever that looks like, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say you're stronger than you think you are. And you really truly are. Don't listen. There will be people who be like, you got it. And you're like, I don't have it. You're stronger than you think you are. And you will get your arms around it. It'll take some time. It'll take a lot of tears and a lot of emotion, but you will get your arms around it. Like you're stronger than you think you are, and trust yourself, because you know you're stronger than you know.
Amen. Thank you so much. And for everybody else out there listening, you heard it. You heard it right from her. You are stronger than you think you are. And I love some of the quotes you used. The quickest way is to go through it, is
That's
as
right.
you said,
That's
what
right.
there's
There's
no
no
way but
way but
through it.
through. There's
Yep.
no way but through. Yep.
And I also love for everybody else out. And goes for everything. I mean, people on here, they're going through adversities that might not be a cancer diagnosis, but they're
Yep.
going through stuff. And all
Yeah.
of this applies to any kind of trauma, any kind of life event. It's all practical information that we can all use for sure. And
Exactly.
I love that you came on to share that. If anybody out there is listening and you want to ask questions to myself or, drop a comment below, let's see how we can work together. If you need a pep talk, let's do it. I love those
Yeah.
pep talks. So, and I will see you guys back next week.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.